Lush, nutrient-packed microgreens grown in Perlite? Of course. This guy here is Marty from Marty's Garden. It was actually Marty who inspired me to look into microgreens. If you check his channel out, there's a link in the shout out section on my homepage here on YouTube. Yeah, I saw Marty growing microgreens and we'd never done it before. And seeing as we've had absolutely no luck growing anything outside because we don't have a heated greenhouse or any such luxury, I thought, yeah, let's give it a go. So we tried to grow microgreens and we found we could grow them indoors very successfully. So kudos to Marty, he's the guy who got me interested in it. But when I mentioned in a comment on a video he put up that I was growing, just as an experiment, radish in Perlite, he asked me if I had done a video on it. Of course I hadn't, but I have now. So this is what I'm going to share with you. Okay, well I thought we'd start by having a look at what a perlite actually is. It gets its name from the volcanic rhyolite rock, which has about 2% moisture, and when that's heated to something like 1000 degrees centigrade or 1900 degrees Fahrenheit, it pops like a piece of popcorn. That makes it extremely lightweight, but also it has a massive surface area in comparison to the actual size of the rock. I know you can see there, not too well because this is a cheap and cheerful USB microscope I was looking at this under, but you get the idea. The surface is full of little cracks and nooks and fissures, and it is these that trap water and hold on to air, which is why adding perlite to the soil is so good for your starting seedling mix and also helping with drainage generally. If you watched the video I put up on making a new garden where we located the rhubarb, when I watered it down, it was just sitting there, a table of water on the surface. So I dug in about a quarter of a bag of perlite, and there's been no problems with the drainage ever since. So this is what we would typically use it for. It is used in modern day time. It's been known since biblical days, but it's been used in modern day time for insulation in the construction industry, for soundproofing. The metallics industry use it to draw up impurities or trap impurities from metal. So it's an extremely versatile rock. And where the name comes from, it's the volcanic rhyolite rock, and it was originally described as having a pearly luster. So if you think about it, a pearly rhyolite, pearly rhyolite, pearly rhyolite, pearly rhyolite, just say it quicker, 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 and you end up with perlite. So that's where we get the name. Now, there is no rhyme or reason for me doing this. I just happen to have perlite, and I thought to myself, I wonder, because it's a sterile substance, there's no nutrients in it whatsoever, maybe a tiny little bit of mineral, but next to no nutrients at all. It's obviously very, very different to a seed starting mix, and I wanted to see if seeds would grow in it. So I took a handful of microgreens, which is what we are growing indoors, because at the moment we're not having much luck with seeds outdoors because it's still too cold, but we want to eat little bits of homegrown greens. So I thought, yeah, let me throw some seeds onto perlite, which has been wetted down, and let me see what happens. And that's the genesis of this little experiment. So I got a shallow tray. You could use anything. The plastic trays that you get fruit comes in from the supermarkets or bottom of a lunchbox, whatever. Something reasonably shallow. I filled it to quite near the top with perlite, and then I just soaked the perlite. Now, you could just chuck the whole thing in a bucket and then lift it out with your hands, but I found that the perlite clings to your skin. So the way I'm doing it is you don't get so much stuck on your hands. So while we're letting the water attach itself to the perlite, these are the microgreens that we've been growing most of over the winter. and they grow extremely well indoors, sitting on top of the bearded dragon's vivarium. It's an excellent spot. And we've been also eating a lot of fenugreek. Now that is an acquired taste, and I haven't quite acquired the taste yet, but fenugreek sprouts are supposed to be legendarily healthy for you. So once that's been sitting there for 5 minutes or so that water can get trapped in all those little cracks and fissures, I just drain the water out, but I leave a tiny little bit of water at the bottom. So you don't want to completely drain every drop of water out of the tray. Leave a little bit at the bottom. And we're going to sow some basil. So all I did was take the basil seed and sprinkle them generously across the top. I haven't covered them with anything. I haven't pushed them down into the perlite. I've just sprinkled them loosely and generously across the top of the surface. And all I'm going to do now is cover them with the bottom of another flat tray. They'll get parked on top of the vivarium, and in about a week or so we're going to have lovely basil microgreens. Now here's the radish that I was commenting on to Marty, but before we take a close look at that, I thought it'd be interesting to have a look at the root, and you can see how well those roots have done. The roots are about twice the length, I should say, of the actual plant itself. So they've had no problems whatsoever in the perlite, and they've obviously been able to push their way through and find the moisture that's trapped in all the little pockets on the surface of the little lumps of perlite. I mean, I don't know about you, but to me that looks like a very healthy root system. So there's absolutely no issues with growing seedlings in nothing but perlite. So there's no additives in that, nothing, just perlite and water. And as you can see, they've got themselves off to a rather excellent start. So that's it, guys. It was just that Marty asked me if I had videotaped it, the radish growing, and I hadn't, so I thought, let me just grow some more and let him have a look at it, and you guys might be interested in it as well. There's a closer look at all the forest canopy of beautiful radish, which is going to be eaten today and tomorrow. That's it. As always, thanks for watching.